Ms. Rachel Patterson, welcome. Welcome to the 7th episode of Jammy Jams, where the host, in this case, Ms. Adria Dawn, and the guests appear and chat and have meaningful conversation in their jammies, or what they would wear as their jammies, right? I'm the director of Acting Studios Chicago. I'm so glad you are here. I trust that everyone is well and staying safe. I am super excited tonight for this dynamic duo that agreed to join us. So first we have, you all know Adria Dawn, our lovely host.
Hey guys.
With the mostest. And this is Stephen Cohn. Stephen Cohn is a filmmaker, a director, a writer, an actor, a playwright, a teacher at Northwestern. And Stephen is a dear friend of the studio, and Stephen for a handful of years taught an amazing class for us that people are always asking when it will come back. And I say, oh, I don't know, he's so busy. But he did this wonderful class called Cinema Lab, and in that made 42 short films. And you can see all those 42 short films on our YouTube channel if you'd like, and if you're inspired after this. Stephen directed not his most recent film, but just a couple of years ago, Henry Gamble's Birthday Party. And the gentleman that played Henry Gamble is the lovely Cole Doman, who sits with us today. So we invited them, actor, filmmaker, to talk about working together on that project, and then the audition process, working on set and all kinds of things. So I trust Adria Dawn is going to take it away. Again, I'm so grateful that you all are here. Next Monday, May 25th, will be myself and Charles Andrew Gardner, who some of you met 2 weeks ago. He is an actor, filmmaker, and is also the president of the SAG-AFTRA Chicago chapter, and we are going to be talking about the SPA contract, which is perfect for content makers to know about. So that's going to be pretty groovy. So that's about all I got. I'm going to go watch, enjoy, and pass the virtual mic over to Adria. Thank you guys. I'm going to go watch. Have fun.
Yay. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Rachel. So for some of you that don't know their backgrounds too well, I'll just give a brief intro on both of them, and then we'll get started. Thanks, guys, for joining us. I feel like I haven't seen you in a little bit. Okay, so Stephen, Rachel said he's a Chicago-based filmmaker and teacher. He's known for a lot of films. You've made a lot of films, Stephen. Princess Sid, Henry Gamble's Birthday Party, The Wise Kids, the series This Close, to name a few. His films have screened internationally. They're distributed on platforms including Hulu and Amazon Prime. Stephen's won awards for his work, including The Wise Kids winning the Outfest Grand Jury Award for the U.S. feature and for screenwriting. Henry Gamble's Birthday Party was the winner of the Silver Q Hugo Award at the 2015 Chicago International Film Festival. And you guys, this was the New York Times Critics' Pick. Pretty cool. Yeah, so I could go on and on about all of his achievements, but I'm just really happy to have him here tonight. So thanks for joining us, Stephen.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Cole is a very talented actor, and I'm really picky, you guys know that. He got his BFA from Roosevelt. Okay, is it Roosevelt or is it Roosevelt, Cole?
I called it Roosevelt.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Roosevelt, okay? In Chi-Town here, and then he also went to the school at Steppenwolf. He made his film debut in Henry Gamble's Birthday Party and was featured as one of the best breakout performances of 2016 by the Film Stage. Since graduating, he's worked on hit shows including Modern Family, Glow, Sharp Objects, to name a few. Have you guys heard of those films? Because I have, those shows. So he also, spent a year touring in the national tour of Wicked. Recent credits include the feature film Uncle Frank from writer-director Alan Ball, you guys, which premiered at Sundance this year. He now kicks it in Brooklyn. Thank you, Cole, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And I just want to say that you guys are t-shirt wearers for your Jammy Jams, which I see you guys rocking them both. Let's see your t-shirt, Stephen.
Oh, it's my TCM shirt.
Yes,
I
yes,
just
yes,
threw
yes.
on- I threw on what I had on this morning. I figured it would pass muster. Yep.
Excellent. And you got stripes on. Okay, thank you. You know, sometimes guys just put the t-shirts on and it totally rocks. So thank you. Okay, so first off, I'm going to get these questions going, but I watched Henry Gamble's birthday party for the first time a few days ago, and I truly enjoyed it. It starts off with what I call a wowza scene, that intimate, kind of sexually charged scene with the two men together right at the top. And I thought that was a really bold way to start the film. And I also think it sets up the movie, and I just thought it worked really, really well. So I wanted to know how all the more intimate moments were dealt with. I know that there's been a ton of coverage about intimacy coordinators and all that, but was this before all that came about? Can you guys talk to me about that a little bit? Because I thought that all those moments were super intimate and just played really well.
Yeah, I mean, Cole can tell me if he remembers it differently. Yes, it was pre-coordinator. My memory of that scene is that we had the morning to shoot the opening scene and the final scene, and we can talk more about this later, but there was no rehearsal or anything, which is not unusual for me. And my memory is that we did one essentially rehearsal take, and that's largely what you see in the movie. And I remember thinking, I'm not gonna have to really do anything this morning. And I'm just gonna, they did it. And I was like, okay, that's it. So this is just gonna be a matter of repetition and making sure that everyone feels comfortable and just shoot it over and over and over again. So yeah, my memory is that it, on my part, was very effortless and easy, and Cole had the work to do.
Awesome.
And Joe Keery, his bed partner.
Yeah, awesome.
Is that your memory, Cole?
Yeah, we like it was probably like the biggest, like the longest scene with dialogue that we had in the whole movie, at least for me. So I think like the night before we knew we were gonna shoot that scene, Joe and I were, after we wrapped the day before, like I think we just like got a bottle of wine. We like ran lines the night before to make sure we were like memorized together, which was really nice and helpful.
Oh,
so when we got to set, we felt really prepared and like comfortable with each other and like just the dialogue. And then I guess because it was my first film, I like didn't really know that because it was like the same location of the bed, I'd be shooting the first scene in the movie and the last scene in the movie at the same time. So it was or right after one another. So that was like a really it was exciting, you know. And it really just came down to, by that point we were maybe like a week in already, and we had already established such a comfort level with each other, friendship wise, with Steven, and like, you know, it was more about the mechanics at that point of like making sure we like where we were going to reach and where we were going to go, when we were going to turn and things like that. But yeah, I just remember feeling really comfortable and at ease.
That's awesome. Wow. That was my next question. Okay, what day on set was it? And I think that that's nice that you had time beforehand to kind of.
Yeah, I think it was like a week or so in. So we had, or maybe a couple days in at least, that we got to, you know, build a little bit of a friendship first.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to note that no one asked them to get together the night before and work on the scene, and nor was I even aware of it. Probably, I just thought, wow, they showed up and they knew what to do, and I just think that's a great takeaway for anyone to.
That is a great takeaway. Yeah, going the extra mile to just really feel comfortable and all that. Well, it shows. I mean, the show has a very real tone to it. So you started talking a little bit about this already, Cole, but it's your film debut, which I was like, oh my God, that's great. Your performance is so grounded and believable. Aside from not knowing, you know, quite how shots were set up, what was that like about, you know, just kind of throwing yourself into your first on-screen role?
Yeah, I think I was really nervous, obviously. My top priority was just about making sure that I wasn't going to get in the way of anything, like making sure that I wasn't going to hold up anything, and like just be like a really good team player, which is like, I don't know. And as far as like the approach to acting, 'cause up to that point my experience was all in theater. I think I just remember telling myself like over and over again that there was like a reason that whatever I did in that audition like got me the part. So I'm probably doing it right. So I should especially as someone who had like no really credits to speak of beforehand, and it was sort of like in a way like an open call where I didn't know didn't have a relationship with Steven or anyone really. PR had never cast me before, and
wow.
So I just tried to hold on to that. Like I gotta keep I gotta just trust that like I got it. I'm here for a reason.
I think that's so true. Like you guys, we just have to believe it, right? That's essentially what Cole is saying that he's doing. Yeah. He got cast in it. Steven saw something in you that he obviously loved. So if he believes it, you got to believe it too, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
There's a great for Henry Gamble's on DVD for people who still buy those or but there's a great little special feature we made where the little boy Cole is interviewed on set and being asked about his first movie, and it's so beautiful and pure and it's so great. And then what we did was my friend and producer Shane and I interviewed him watching that interview like 2 years later, and it's a really interesting
I remember that
thing. I watched it a couple weeks ago. It's so yeah, it was like watching you grow up.
Aw, nice. Well, I had read an article that talked about Cole, how you were crying when you were watching the film at the private cast and crew screening. And I just think of that moment, you know, as a filmmaker as well, like to just sit there, both of you, like what an achievement. And with the subject matter being so relatable and pseudo-based on parts of your real life, Steven, what was it like to actually sit there with everybody and actually see the finished product?
Where was that? Where did we watch it?
At Claire's place.
Shane and Claire's place.
Yeah, Shane and Claire's place.
Shane's place.
Yeah.
You know what? At that point, I'm sure it was fun. I don't know. I at that point you're so in it. I mean, when I show it to cast and crew, usually I'm still making the thing. I think they watched it with a temp score, even temp music.
Okay.
So at that point I'm so in it. And I'm probably a little drunk when we're watching, and I'm just trying. And I'm just happy to be sharing it with them. But I'm too in it for it to be that like satisfying moment. Yeah.
And Cole, for you, it was just emotional?
Yeah, it was emotional because it's like this thing it felt like a time capsule, like moment in time of getting to know all these people. And like, obviously the experience of working on set, it was an ensemble cast of 20 people. And a lot of the times all of us were there the whole time together. So it felt like, you know, it was like this, like, catharsis of like, well, look what we did. And not only that, but like remember all that stuff we did, you know, when we were not shooting, or when we were like, you know, when we called cut and like we were like hanging out, and it was really special, you know, special in that way.
Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna have a question for Steven after this, but just so you guys, I'm gonna remind you guys out there listening to please, if you have a question for one of them or both of them, put it in the Q&A section of the webinar, and I'll try to read it online for them to answer. Steven, I love what you say in Black Book's article about you that I read. You said that casting is kind of a final rewrite. I love the concept that I just love that casting is kind of a final rewrite. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's not even a stretch. It's there's at least 1 or 2 roles per movie, every movie, where you cast someone who brought something to the room that you didn't expect and who's a totally different type than what you ever envisioned, and that shakes up the whole dynamic of the film. So yeah, I mean, it's often said that the cut of the film, the edit, is the final rewrite, but in fact there's a profound bridge between the script and the edit that is casting that alters the entire story. So and me, I mean, especially in those, I'm not going to call them early years, but you know, in these micro budget films, I'm writing quickly, I'm casting quickly, I'm making it quickly, and so I'm barely even out of the script writing phase when I'm casting it, and it's like just making new choices. You know, I mean, that's a process that lightning fast process is something that's unique to very cheap movies. You know, but it's great. You almost can't see the dividing line between the writing process and the casting process, or even the edit. It's like one big burst, you know, one big 6 to 8 month burst of just a series of drafts.
Mm-hmm. So my next question is going to be, I know I'm going to see a lot of these questions in the feed about your casting process, how people can get in front of you and things like that. Do you, when you write scripts, do you write with specific people in mind, or do you just write what comes out?
I've rarely written something with someone in mind. No, it's more like if you have like PR cast, someone like Mickey and Jen on your side, you're excited to write something for them to help you put together, you know? So why would I do that in advance?
So it could be you out there listening, right? It could be you. PR,
Sure.
Talking about PR casting, who we had as guests, if you guys remember. Do you always work with them?
I have, yeah. I mean, I didn't know them early on for my sort of like quote unquote training films, but got into the groove and met them, and yeah, they did 4. Yeah, 4.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, Cole, what was auditioning for Steven like? Like when you walked out of the room in the callback, were you like, I think I got that? Or were you like, wow, that guy's really cool? Or what was it like auditioning and booking actually?
Yeah, I actually was called in for a different role in the movie. Like initially I was called in for the character who played John, I think is the name, he plays guitar. One of the friends, and he who's played by Jack Ball, and I went in and I read that, and then I guess in the room Steven was there for my appointment and asked if I would be interested in reading for Henry, and I remember when I had read the script that I thought that was probably a better fit for me anyway, so I was pretty excited because I wanted to do something that felt closer to me, and and so I just kind of went in this little like back room where there's like kitchen area of PR and looked at the lines for about like 15 minutes and went back in and read them, and then I left the room, and then like got a couple adjustments from Steven. It was very warm, and I remember like I think like it just felt like I was reading with AJ, I think, and it was very comfortable, and they make everything so easy, especially for someone who at that point had not much experience auditioning, especially on camera. And then when I left the room, Mickey followed me out and she was like, "You're amazing." And like, so at that point, which was really sweet to hear. And then I kind of had a feeling, and I was working on something for Chicago Shakespeare, like a workshop of a new show. And I had was check availed for it. And I was like, okay, I feel like
Cool. Cool. And so can you talk a little bit too, Cole, about some of the other jobs that you've booked since then? Like Family and Glow. I love Glow. But anyway, what the process is like. How's it different, or
Well, it's really different because you're especially when you're starting out and you're auditioning for some of these like co-star roles and guest star roles. A lot of times you're getting when you're in these bigger markets, there's so many more casting directors you're working with, so you're not going in as familiar with like the terrain of how they're going to speak to you and the protocol of like what is appropriate and what's not appropriate, and you can just kind of go in. You got to just do your thing, and and I actually remember specifically with Glow, which I actually was cut out of in the final cut, by the way, which happened, it's just part of it.
Okay, you booked it. That's okay.
Yeah, so what happened with Glow is actually went in for like a small recurring role at Jen Houston casting. It was my first time going in for her, and I did the take 2 times, or I did it once, and they were like, and then I remember asking a question about if I could try something out that was different than what they initially had said, and they were like, oh yeah, do that. And so I did that, and I felt like we had a rapport. I left that audition, I did not get it. And then like 2 weeks later, I got a call from my rep saying that they wanted to just straight offer me like a 2-line role on Glow because they thought I was like like a team player, you know, so you
Yeah.
really, you never know. And every room is different. And I would say if there's any advice I have about like auditioning when you're not sure of what you're walking into is you really have to walk in like you're already in the place where you need to be, because I know it's really like tempting to present this like super friendly, nice person, but then you throw yourself off of what you're potentially about to do and you have a 30-second switch before they're rolling the take. So I guess that's my once I learned that, I stopped throwing myself off and getting in my own way and let my work speak for itself.
I love that, Cole. You guys, Cole just said, do your own thing. Do your own thing.
Yeah.
I love it. Be confident. And man, you never know what's going to happen for you guys listening out there. Like, he went in, felt good, didn't get it. He's laying groundwork for the future. That was a great story. Thank you. Okay, Stephen, I have to ask you, how did you handle all the coverage in Henry Gamble? There's a lot of people in the pool and in the house, and I was just wondering, like, did you have multiple cameras, B-roll? I mean, everything sort of felt really seamless, and I just wanted to know how you handled all that.
It's all trickery.
Yeah.
No, one camera. That very, very, very few moments where everyone was actually there at the same time. It's my producers and my DP, Jason Chu, everyone banded together to make it all work. I mean, you know, on one hand, on a micro budget level, it's maybe smart to write a movie that takes place all in one location. On the other hand, to have 20 characters in that one location for the entire time is not a very smart budgetary choice. So it's, I mean, and think of it, in Chicago, all of those actors in plays and doing other TV and film, like what are the chances of getting all those people together in one place? So, I mean, oftentimes if there's two people off to the side pointing at somebody, they're not renewed, there's no one there. And it really was an effort to sort of, I don't know, I can't believe we pulled it off, but I guess we did.
Yeah, I thought for sure you'd have more than one camera. That's great. Wow. Movies are magic, everybody. Just remember that.
Definitely magic, yeah.
And another one for you, Stephen. I read that before you made this film, you sort of had an aversion to stylization in movies, but then you decided to get like a new DP and just kind of pour yourself headlong into trying different style for the film. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, but I think that might be a little bit in my own head because people who watch it, I mean, there are stylistic differences, but most people mostly describe it in the same way that they do the others.
Okay.
But to me, I mean, there's slow-mo and it's widescreen. It's the sort of like scope screen, and there's some flourishes. But I wonder if maybe I overstated that. But yeah, it was fun to do a different shape. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
But it was like, you know, it's worth saying that I'd made The Wise Kids, which was about very similar characters and territory, and so it made all the sense in the world to switch it up a little bit, to do something a little bit flashier, even though relatively speaking, it's not super flashy.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So I'm looking at some questions here, and Courtney Rue asks, Cole, did you always know you would leave Chicago? Stephen, have you ever left Chicago? Do you think you will continue to stay here? So questions for both of you. Cole, did you know you would always leave?
Yeah, I did. Well, I'm from Philly, and so I wasn't born and raised in the Midwest. I'm from the East Coast. So I think when I moved to Chicago, it was with the mindset of I was still in that place where I was really interested in pursuing musical theater, and so I always saw myself like wanting to like be on Broadway and like be in musicals. And it's so crazy how the trajectory can change. But I always knew that although I think it's an amazing city with so much to offer and you can have such a fruitful career in Chicago, I think there's a level of like, I think I really wanted to shoot for the stars, and I think from an ambition standpoint, I think there's only so much that Chicago can bring someone who is not a necessarily cookie cutter type. So I knew I needed to be in a different market, a bigger market.
Cool. Stephen, what about you? Do you ever think, I know that you work in LA, I assume. Yeah. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, as always with these questions, we could talk an hour about each one. I mean,
Yeah.
we could talk an hour about LA versus New York versus Chicago. And in fact, I do often with people, young people. Yeah, I mean, after the Wise Kids had some nice things happen to it, I sort of dipped my toes in LA. This actually applies to acting studio and everything else, but I did a sort of premature year in LA in 2012, and I was like, bye, Chicago. And I did this stupid Facebook post where I was like, oh, Chicago, you've taught me so much, and these are all the people that meant so much to me. And it's like, bye forever, I love you. So then I was like staying with my dear friends, Sue and Brian in LA for a few months. I shadowed a TV show. I shadowed an episode of Switched at Birth on ABC Family. And I thought, okay, I'm here. But here's the thing, like I've never wanted to be anything other than a writer-director, and I didn't necessarily want to be in a writer's room or be a screenwriter for hire. So there was no job for me in LA, then. And so I was like, this feels early, this feels wrong. So I went back, and if I hadn't gone back, not only would Princess Sid and Henry Gamble not exist, nor would any of the shorts I made in the Cinema Lab. I mean, I did so much of this work that I'm proud of and have learned from personally. Happened after I had this general feeling that LA was too. And then sure enough, that's the work that then got me invited to LA and got me jobs in LA. So it's like, yeah, you have to kind of zen out a little bit and just focus on the work, do the work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, excellent. Okay, cool. Let me see here. Oh, Jordan Campo wants to know, what is a temp score? You mentioned that earlier.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. When I'm editing a film, before I finalize the music, I can put in whatever I want because I don't have to worry about the rights to anything, or a score. If I want the score to be a certain way, I'll pull in elements of, I'll pull in other scores. And so it's just the layered sort of music in a rough cut early on that is then replaced by songs that you purchase and a composer coming in and scoring.
Awesome. And so, Stephen, you said just earlier that you always wanted to be a writer and a director, but I also noticed that you had some acting credits. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, again, we could talk about this for an hour, but no, I was a theater major. I didn't go to film school. I grew up in South Carolina. There were no DSLR cameras when I was in high school. I really had no way of knowing how to be a filmmaker, even though I was buying How to Make Movies books and stuff like that, and sort of, got drawn into performing arts and ended up being a theater major and acted in college. It was something I was good at and enjoyed, but deep down kind of had this feeling that I would eventually make movies, write movies, and eventually kind of just got impatient with acting and I wasn't as interested in pursuing it as I was other things. But every now and then I joke or I don't joke that I act about twice a decade, and that's exactly how I would like to leave it.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Let's see. David Hamilton has a question. Can Stephen define what he's looking for from an actor in an audition? Or, is it just like a feeling?
I'm looking for someone who's bringing in their authentic selves and isn't wearing their urgency or desperation on their sleeves, who at least knows how to fake that you don't care whether you get it or not. And it's, I'm looking for someone to walk in like they're walking into a restaurant or something and just hanging out with me for a little bit. So someone who trusts themselves and doesn't think that they have to like crack the code of how to get the role.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, you guys listening, that reminds me of Marissa Ross. Some of you may have caught that talk, but she talked about having an ease in the work, that you just really say this in real life.
And I acknowledge that it's totally counterintuitive and impossible. You know, I mean, it's a high stress physical situation, and we're asking you to at least appear to be as relaxed as you are, you know, hanging out at home, and that's weird. But there's that thing of, you know, kind of faking confidence breeds real confidence, but it's easy for me to say. Again, I don't really act. I quit it. It's just the worst place to be. I'm happy to be here guiding you, helping you feel chill, you know, but yeah. I'm not comfortable with the hierarchy of the casting couch and the wall and the thing. And it's like, what I hate it. It's dehumanizing. It's, and so I get it. I mean, it's like, don't ask me to audition. I will run in the other direction.
So you guys, we picked a great career. No, but that's great to hear that you have compassion for us. But so it's not fake it till you make it. It's fake it till you become it. You know what I mean? Like, just fake it till you become it. You got it. I like that. Like, faking it. Even if you just tell yourself, I got this, there's a lot of power in your thoughts, you know? So I agree with you on that one. Cole, can you talk to us about how often you self-tape for projects? I mean, this is probably more pre-pandemic than now, but how often would you self-tape first before going into the room?
I think I might be in a little bit of like a particular situation where I live in Brooklyn, but my representation, both like my agents and my manager, are in Los Angeles. So it works out that I oftentimes am able to self-tape, which I do like. I would say it's about 50-50.
Okay.
When it's a bigger project specifically, like if it's like a role, like a bigger role in a film, like a lead role, I'll usually tape first. And then it's like a pre-screen, and then they'll see people. But for episodic television, it's usually in the room when I'm in New York. And yeah, I like the tape, and I like being in the room. They're two different skills, and
yeah,
they both take like practice.
Yeah. Okay. For both of you, if you could somehow look in the future, even though we can't, do you think, how do you think the pandemic's going to affect the industry? Do you think there'll be more self-taping, or what does your gut say, if anything?
I think people are pretty excited to get back into seeing people a lot, like in front of each other. You know, there's something you can't really, like what Steven was talking about like really a connection with someone, the actor. It's really hard to find that in the tape, and it's hard to find that in the slate, especially. You know, it's like, that's the worst. The slate is harder than the tape often, and I think that it'll probably stay the same. I think it's probably stay the same, or maybe people want to be in the room more.
Yeah. What do you think, Steven?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't either. Okay, cool. So, Steven, this is for you. Can you talk to us about your experience working on series this close, like versus working on one of your films, how those differ?
Yeah, that was closer to independent film than you might think. It was, I mean, it was a network show. It was Sundance Channel show, but it didn't have the budget of like an ABC drama or anything. And a lot of the crew came from independent film. And I mean, I had more resources than I do in my scrappy Chicago micro budget indies. But the directors worked on the scripts a little bit. And so I still had there's still lines of mine in the episode. So it actually wasn't that different, to be honest.
Awesome.
I'm sure there are other, wait, let me think of one. It's just having maybe some more resources, you know?
Yeah. Do you prefer one over the other?
Oh, I would like to write and direct movies. That's what I like to do.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So are there any new projects that you guys have that you're working on that you want to share with us?
Well, you mentioned I like did I'm gonna be in the new Alan Ball movie that was premiered at Sundance and was picked up by Amazon. So that'll come out I'm assuming the fall is what I was told.
Yeah, Uncle Frank, right?
Yeah, Uncle Frank. I play young Paul Bettany in flashbacks and
Young Paul Bettany, people. That's pretty cool.
and yeah, it was cool.
You know.
And, yeah, and then like I don't know if like I were talking. I was supposed to see Steven in LA. We were both going to be there right the week everything got shut down, and I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about that because I don't know if I'm still doing it because of everything going on. So we'll see. Yeah, but you know, things here and there.
Yeah, cool. And Steven, I'm sure you have like a million scripts in your mind that you want to make. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing about scaling up and trying to make movies for more money is that the process gets slower and you become less likely to talk about it because you don't know what's going to happen in what order. And I mean, I will say that quarantine has sort of inspired me to get back in the mindset of those. It's too exhausting for me because all of those micro budget movies, Henry Gamble and Sid and Wise Kids, I'm conceiving the project. I'm raising all the money from individuals. And it's just soul sapping. It's just like you end up with movies, but it's just like an incredibly exhausting process. I would like to use other people's resources from now on, but what that means is that you lose a little bit of your control over your own momentum and your own process. So, but lately I've been thinking, okay, maybe I can gear up. So you end up writing on sort of 3 different budget levels. Like you always have something ready to go on at different budget levels. So yes, I'm finding this a very fruitful, productive year in terms of writing, and there are lots of potential, but I don't, want to jinx anything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, Leslie.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, it is a good time for writing, I think.
Yeah.
Leslie Mueller wants to know, Cole, your lighting is amazing. What are you using?
That's hilarious. Like honestly, nothing. I wish you guys could see what's going on here, but I have my computer wedged in my window and in my room, my tiny attic bedroom, and so it's like sunset in New York, so it's just coming through. So it's kind of like I'm the only thing being illuminated, and there's no.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, I think on that note for self-tapes, if I can give it some advice, like,
yeah,
I think if you can almost always go for natural light. I know the ring light is really tempting, but I think the ring light, you lose something about the naturalism of your look. And I think you can see the ring light in your eyes.
Cole, I'm so not a fan of the ring light. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not, because of the alien halo effect it has.
Yeah, and my friends who work in casting say the same thing.
Sorry, guys. That's just 2 of us talking. What do you think, Steven? Are you a fan of the ring light?
No, I'm a fan of the actor.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
right.
There we go. So natural light, but what if you don't have natural light, Cole? What if you can't get to your perfect, do you put a little light up?
Yeah, I won't, like, I'll find a friend's wall. Like, I really, like, think, you have to be, like, I guess crafty. Like, you have to ask around, like, people will, I'm actually in the process, unfortunately, of moving during this, and one of the criteria for my room is like I have to have a wall with a window where I can shoot tape stuff. And I think I think that's just part of the game now. But yeah, if you have to use a ring light, use a ring light. Like, it's not the end of the world. You're still going to do your work, and that will be recognized. But
And so you always have a reader with you?
Yeah. And I'm like now, like, hope, like, in the place and still kind of will do this where I'm like trying to, like, I'll pay friends to memorize it and work on it. Like I'll like hire my friends, not a lot, like I'll buy dinner, and like the day before I'll send them the sides when I get them. And I'm like, hey, it'd be really helpful if you would be a little bit like off book for this. And like, we could work on it. And when I'm doing the scene,
Yeah, that's taking it up a notch, Cole. I like that.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to buy a friend a 6-pack or like buy them like Thai food. Like, it's not, if you can swing it,
And it's your process too. It totally helps your process, which is
yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, I have a question from Diamond Gray. She says, my favorite PJs are silk and polka dotted. That's very important to know. Thank you for sharing, Diamond. She says, my question would be, for somebody that feels like they lost their way and life just kind of happened and they're not sure where to start as far as getting back into acting, what would be a great place to start at?
Acting Studio Chicago.
Yeah.
Boom!
Well, but seriously, like I have to say, I'm a former, I'm not proud of this. I'm ashamed of it. I'm a former sort of class skeptic, and working at acting studio kind of turned me around on it. But so did Q&As with people like Cole, and even people like, people like Carrie Coon, and across the whole spectrum of, if you're choosy, if you're selective, if you have your antenna out for the good ones, how valuable they can be. And just as an anecdote, I mean, there's a featured player supporting role in Princess Sid, who was a student of mine, that I would not have probably seen or called in if he hadn't taken a class. So, and I guess you just audition for all the plays that you can, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially in Chicago, if they're in Chicago theater is like the best way. The off-loop theater, the storefront theater, I did countless of them where they pay you a $200 stipend. I did it while I was in school. It's the best way you can get involved with the community. And Chicago is a city where they love working with people that are fun and love to work and have fun on these projects. So it's if you can get in once, you can hang out.
Yeah, I think too, yeah, that's right. Just being open to whatever is coming your way,
Yeah.
The project seems good and you're interested, why not? Just being open to being all right, I'm just gonna go audition and see what happens,
Yeah.
But also that you haven't lost your way. You're on the way. I mean, there is no way, and so, don't think of it that way. You're on a beautiful path.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, let's see. Oh, there was one from, Carrie L. She says, I'm curious to know how much time was allowed for the actors to get into an emotional place before their scene was shot, particularly Autumn.
Nina's listening. I think, unless she left. That's a great example. I mean, look, if everyone trusts each other and you've cast people you love and everyone feels great and confident and it's a relaxed set, then it sounds silly, but you expect people to show up and do it, and they do. Yeah. But that involves a really beautiful connection and layer of trust. And but that scene, it's not an exception, but it's the most high emotion scene in the film. And I think Nina knew that I was expecting her to be there, and she was there. And we did it a couple times, and then we were done.
I think it's a fallacy that actors need to take all this time to get in their headspace. It's you do the homework beforehand, you work on the text, you whatever your process is, your kernel of truths, et cetera, et cetera. There's so much lingo behind it. It's you've done that homework so that if you sit in it for too long and overthink it and you're doing all the work already before the camera's already on you. You know what I mean? It's you have to there has to be spontaneity in it. And for me, it's all I need to really focus on is I need to know the lines down, and then the rest of it really you just can live in you.
Yeah, listening. Yeah.
Listening. Yeah.
I can't overstate the importance and the extent to which Nina was prepared to do that scene. I mean, I'm not coaching her into an emotional place. You know what I'm saying? She just brought it. Just like Joe and Cole ran the lines and split the wine the night before. You know, and I remember it is what actually, and Nina could correct me if I'm wrong live, but it was one of the few scenes that I've ever kind of loosely rehearsed in advance, but she gave, you know, good, you know, it was a smart move. She gave 40, 50% sort of just for blocking, we working it out, and then on action, she let loose with the fury, the thunderstorm that is that scene. I mean, honestly, that scene could go so wrong, and she sets the bar there for like, this is how you do a big, messy, sloppy scene at a full 100% commitment, and was able to access the aftermath and the afterglow of it out of sequence throughout the rest of the shoot. It's remarkable.
Awesome. And I think that is like a big difference between stage and film. You know, you're sort of expected, you know, you come in, you audition, and that's sort of like what you're going to do, give or take, you know, versus maybe the longer rehearsal process for stage. So it's important to be ready. That's what they're saying. Cole, can you talk about, now I was reading you had hardly any time to get plugged in for Wicked. Can you talk about what it was like for that, landing that role and then touring for a year?
Yeah. And I think like I saw, this is kind of goes, I think I saw something in the chat about like, someone was asking about my experience at college at Roosevelt, if there's anyone from Roosevelt watching. Like I was a musical theater major, and so for Wicked specifically, musical theater school is really good if you're in a program that emphasizes this about like teaching discipline with your like instrument and your like work ethic. And so I will say that if I've taken anything from my experience at Roosevelt, it was like a discipline with the work. I got there. I mean, what did not go in there with discipline at all, but like I got there eventually. And so being plugged into Wicked, I had not done a musical for 3 years. You know, I had like taken a sidestep from that, and this opportunity came along, and I just like, I guess I was just super fired up to prove something to myself that I still like had it in me to do 8 shows a week, you know, and so you learn the show in 2 weeks with the stage manager and the dance captain only. Wow. By like the end of the second week, they're throwing the understudies at you to do some of the scene work, and you have like 5 music rehearsals. And then you have your put in, which is like the first time you're in the costumes on the sets with the lights, with the props. You've had the props rehearsal. And that's the first time you're doing it with the full company and the actors you're actually doing it with. And then I did that. So I did the put in that day, and I did the show for the first time that night. So it's like, there's no room. Wow. So you're being fired out of a cannon. And that's when it comes back to like that training really sets in. You're like, oh, like I can do this. Like I just have to breathe. And like, yeah, like I was like, I'm taking this seriously. Like this is Wicked. Like I never thought I was gonna be Wicked, like, you know, and and so it was just and then like being on the road and traveling with this show, like to keep yourself healthy and like all that stuff, there's so many, it's such an individual experience where some people felt like they had to really, you know, not talk much outside of work and not all these things, and, you know, eat certain ways. And for me, the only thing that would get me through and like, so I had the energy to do my shows and like feel like I was productive, was living a normal life, having a social life, and like, you know, making friends in the cities and things like that, because work isn't my whole life. I am a person, you know, first.
I think that's yes. Okay. First of all, preparation. I love that you're so disciplined about preparation, because I mean, that's where it's at. You prepare so that you can be spontaneous, so that you can let that muscle memory go and just be, you know, do your thing. So
yeah, exactly. It is muscle memory. Yeah, that's what it is, really.
But whether you're on stage or you're in front of the camera, it's the same. You know, the preparation in terms of, you know, just doing the work. Because I always say preparation, you know, can conquer fear, you know? So
yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna look for maybe one more question before we play my game.
Oh, the game.
My silly game. Okay, let's see here. First, one thing that you talked about, Cole, that I think is so important too, is just the idea that, you know, acting doesn't define you or me, you know, just like Stephen, you're a filmmaker and a writer, but you're also like a person with other things that you enjoy and other things that you do. And I think that's so important to have. Yes, I'm a performer, but I'm also other things, you know. And I like that you said, I just have to have a life. I just have to have my friends, because we can get so consumed that that's all that there is. You know what I mean? What do you guys think about that? It's important, right, to have like relationships and
Being a person?
yeah, being a person.
I'll say that, like, when I was in school in my undergrad program, the people who are doing, I mean, there's no competition, right? Everyone's in their own journey, but like the people who have found the most success outside of school are the people who allowed themselves to live a life and weren't so worried about proving something or like keeping themselves locked away, like reading every play they could get their hands on. Like, there is something about being studious, but there's another thing about like, how can you be a person and like be in like work in like, you know, in film and television where you're supposed to capture an essence of like humanity if you're not like living your own humanity and like life. And I think that is we are allowed that as actors, you know, like we're not different than any like other profession where we get lives, you know, and we give up a lot to pursue it, but you're only as good as the people around you and your environment. And if you don't create loving relationships and communities, then you're fucked. I mean, you know.
Awesome.
I mean, I'll say this. This isn't quite what you're asking, but I'll use, this is a variation on theme. I mean, clearly, and I hear it from other actors like Cole, that yes, you just sort of spiritual, emotional nourishment is good for anybody, whether you're in the arts or not, right? That's but this sort of circles back to this thing of being grounded and relaxed and confident. And what's true is that if you can find other things that you love, and you can read books, and you can study space, and you can have an idea of the cosmos and of your place within it, and of what birds do, and how buildings are built, then and you can get excited about things, then that makes you, means that next role that you're dying to get kind of doesn't feel as important. And so that sort of like balance of like, I may or may not get this role, but well, for example, I'm rereading Great Expectations. Like, I may or may not get this role or book this job, but Great Expectations is great, is amazing. You know, and there's like beauty in the world, and and life is finite, and space is infinite, and it's so wild. It's all just wild. It's just staying grounded.
Yeah.
Like historical, again, a very specific thing, but just like historical documentaries or science documentaries, just like getting out of yourself and getting out of the sort of solipsism and this constant sort of inner obsession, it actually helps you in your profession, and because it gives you the confidence you need, and the grounding and the ability to be like, this isn't everything.
Yeah, Stephen, I love that. Yes, it is. Yes. Thank you. Okay.
Documentaries.
It is now time to play the silly game. Are we ready? I'm feeling ready. Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay, cool. This week's game is called Whack Sentences, where I'm going to read you 3 sentences, and you got to pick the right or wrong question, depending on what it is. Okay. So we're going to start with Cole. I'm going to have you pick your favorite quote out of the 3 that I say. Maybe Stephen can try to pick it. What quote is your favorite, or one of your favorites? Okay, everybody. Is it number 1? the humility to prepare, and the self-confidence to bring it off? Laurence Olivier. Is it 2, hold on tightly, let go lightly? A famous older saying that's been around forever. Number 3, you must never underestimate the power of an eyebrow, by Jack Black. Which one is it?
Wait, what are we guessing? Is Cole guessing one that he's mentioned in life?
You're gonna guess which one is true? Which is his favorite quote? Is it eyebrows with Jack Black?
Wait, is this for me?
Yeah, that's for you. What do you think,
For
Stephen?
me, like, what do you think?
I know this. Isn't the let go lightly thing something you've said?
Yeah, that's it. Although I can't emphasize enough, like, the brow is pretty major too.
You like the Jack Black one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, it's hold on tightly, let go lightly. He was told that at Steppenwolf by Audrey Francis, I think.
Yes,
Right?
that's an amazing quote.
That was a little bit of a cheat because didn't that show up in your interview, the acting studio interview?
I still had to read the article.
There, I'm telling you. Okay, maybe not so much of a cheat.
Okay,
Oversight.
it's your turn, Stephen.
Okay.
This one is kind of, I don't know. Which filmmaker is an influence for Stephen?
Oh.
Okay. Is it number 1? Is it Tommy Wiseau for the incredible film The Room? Is it number 2? Is it John Cassavetes, known for Indie Darlings, A Woman Under the Influence, and Husbands, to name a few? Is it Tom Hooper, number 3, for The King's Speech, The Danish Girl, and of course, the hit musical Cats?
It's got to be Cassavetes, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Although, fun fact, I share an agent with Tom Hooper.
I gotta say, I love The Danish Girl, and I love The King's Speech.
Yeah, so I share an agent with Tom Hooper, but no, Cassavetes is my hero.
I think I'm gonna watch Gloria tonight.
Oh,
I've never seen it.
So good. The kid is so good.
Okay, I'll have to watch.
Okay, 2 more questions, one for each of you, and then we'll be done. Okay, back to Cole. Which statement is true?
Okay.
Number 1, Cole's favorite way to work out is a new program called Pogo Power. It's a pogo stick routine he's currently producing. Number 2, he's a traveler. He's wanderlust. He's from Philly. He lived in Chi-Town. He's now in New York by way of LA. Number 3.
Wait, okay. Wait, why was that? Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Cole can not only sing and dance and act, he also plays a mean game of Jenga.
Wait, what am I guessing? Which one's true?
Which one is true?
Wait, but the second option was he's moved all these places that he has.
So it's true.
So is that your guess?
I guess so.
It's true.
I mean, I wouldn't have put any of the others past him. I mean, Cole contains multitudes.
Thank you.
See? And I felt that you could have been an amazing pogo stick player. I mean,
I have it in me.
Stretch. Nothing's a stretch with Cole.
Okay, last question. Which is false? Which is false about Stephen's family? Number 1, his sister fronts an awesome band called Francis Cone in Nashville, Tennessee, even though her real name is Christina. Number 2, his brother is an international touring musician who specializes in the djembe and the didgeridoo.
Cole's frozen. Cole, you're frozen.
Number 3, maybe he'll unfreeze.
Oh, there he is.
Okay.
His amazing mom is a retired high school music teacher. Which is false. Can you hear me, Cole? Maybe.
Cole's frozen.
Cole, you there? Uh-oh. We're in Frozen, the musical.
Okay. I'm back.
Okay.
I'm back. Sorry.
Did you hear?
I didn't.
Okay.
Sorry.
Really quick. No, that's okay. Which is false about Stephen's family? Which is false?
Okay.
His sister fronts an awesome band called Francis Cone in Nashville, Tennessee, even though her real name is Christina.
That's true.
Number 2, his brother is he's an international touring musician, and he specializes in the djembe and the didgeridoo.
That's not true.
Number 3, his amazing mom is a retired high school music teacher.
True.
Which is false.
The second one.
Is that true? Is that the right answer?
The existence of, yes, the existence of my brother is false.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so that was super fun and dumb. Yay!
That was great.
Okay, thank you guys so much for tonight and for joining me and talking about everything. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, you guys out there listening. Again, and I'm gonna give a few pats. I'm gonna pat to Rachel Patterson. You guys see that play on words at Acting Studio? That's for you, woman. And all you out there, you guys are the best. Thank you for joining me again. I feel you. And now we all are gonna go away from this meeting and pretend like we got a lot to do, so much to do until I meet you again. That's a wrap, you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Cole.
Bye, Steven.